All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Heroic Nation podcast. And I hope this is recording. We'll see in a minute. Maybe I'll redo this. All right. Anyway, almost didn't get this out this week, but I've been on a tear, if I do say so myself, because this is the greatest podcast to ever be recorded. That last 7 weeks, this will be week 7 consecutive with mind blowing information. And and I didn't want to. I got a lot of personal stuff going on with cars and house and work stuff. And it's like, man, I got every reason not to do this as I sit here with broken air conditioning, sweating my ass off. But let's get it done and continue the streak. And sometimes you just got to just punch a clock and keep doing it, right? Even when it doesn't make sense to keep doing it. It's something that you committed to yourself to do. And it's amazing the amount of calm that it creates when you just follow through on a promise to yourself. And that is consistent with nutrition, right? When it's like, you know what, I'm just going to like eat the food I brought to work. I'm going to eat the food that I prepped, and I'm not going to just go out and, get a burrito with 1,000 extra calories in it. Like, I'm just going to do what I said I was going to do. And like the amount of clarity on the back end that provides versus the alternate route where you don't get it done, and then it creates this spiral of like shame and guilt and worthlessness, right? And that's a very real thing. It's like you just engage it when you violate the promise to yourself. It creates a shame cycle, and you feel like an idiot. You feel stupid. You're like, dude, I can't do anything right. So just doing little things that you consistently get done that you said you were going to do, and that's for integrity for a lot of reasons, but specifically to yourself. Like, this is something that you said you were going to get done. Now get it done, even if it's just little. It seems trivial. It's like, nope. Said I was going to do it. I'm going to get this shit done. So, long story short, that's why we're getting a podcast done today. A lot of reasons not to, but the big one is I said I was going to do it. I said I was going to do a weekly show, and here it is, right? On today's episode of T.J. Webb. T.J. Webb is a veteran cop of 19 years from the Milford Police Department in Delaware, right? He's got a big background with, he was on a tactical team, K9. K9 was a lot of what he did. And then he was on a Marshals task force. And then that led to an incident in 2020, I believe, where he was shot 6 times, taking rounds to, I believe, his arms, his legs, in his face, literally shot to shit. And, talking to him about the experience that, like led up to it, and what it was like going through it, and then what it was like on the back end, right? Really good conversation, and he really shined a light on a lot of things that we need to, as a culture, continue to dig into, right? It was a lot of critical information that maybe you've thought of and maybe you didn't. And either way, take a listen. A lot of good stuff happens in this show. And
yeah, man. Always like connecting and seeing what's new and what's going on, and getting out there and just trying to spread a good word or something.
yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of stuff that you talk about that I think it needs to be like dug more into for sure. Some of the
Yeah,
stuff, and I just honestly came across your profile the other day. I can't remember who shared it, but
yeah,
it was the one of you walking in the woods, and it was like, hey, tag 2 or
yeah,
3 dudes. I don't remember. Remind
yeah.
me. I
Yeah,
for some
it was
reason.
I do a lot of like posts like that. If you checked out my feed, that's like random, conversation kind of stuff. But it was last week when we had like it was like 4 suicides that I came across last week, and it just kind of fucking hurt my life a little bit. So I just kind of did a post like, hey, just tag someone if you're thinking about them. Hope they have a good weekend, just to bring awareness to some mental health, and actually did pretty well in the post. I was like, oh, okay, that's wasn't my intention. I mean, it was my intention, but it was like, your intention is never like it's something like that to like get attention to yourself, but to the subject, which is what it did. So it worked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And oh, that for whatever reason, like that hit me, and I was like, this really needs to be dug into more. Like it's because they had those two suicides, I think, from the same department, and
Same department, and then we had one here locally where I'm at. I'm at a department that's about an hour north of me. And then there was another one. There was another one somewhere. I can't remember where it was. Texas, maybe or something. I can't remember. But yeah,
yeah, it was four in a very short period of time, and it
yeah,
always strikes me when it's like high school kids or cops or firefighters are
yeah,
like these collective pockets of the same population, the same
yeah,
demographic, all committing suicide kind of at the same time, and
yeah. It's wild.
well, and but like you got to look at it and be like, all right, what's the mechanism? Like, what is going on here that is like perpetuating this as a viable option? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I don't know, man. Is suicide something that you look into a lot, or is it just kind of in passing you made the comment?
Um, I don't know if I look into it a lot, but when I see it or hear it, like it gets to me just because one, my shift partner, who was actually one of my oldest childhood friends, and and then I went through my own struggles. I didn't have any suicide attempts or actually consider doing suicide, but after everything I went through in my shooting, like, you have thoughts like that back to that try to creep in on you, and you just fight them away. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know, man. It just kind of hit me the wrong way that week. It was just like one after the other, and I was just like, "What the fuck, dude?" I just feel like
Yeah,
somebody had to say something. But at the same time, if we're not talking about it, then what the fuck are we doing to make a difference? If we're not even
yeah,
talking about it. You know what I mean? I was just ate up with it that day specifically. I was just fucking ate up with it, man.
yeah. I think we can segue into your stuff here on this, but like I think posts like you made with that is like the first part of it. Like you have to be able to like, hey, like reach out to people, talk to people, tag people, and posts like that, and just
Yeah,
get it in the forefront. So like maybe it'll like shake something back into reality for
yeah,
people.
yeah,
If they're on the edge or whatever. But it's got to be like you said, it's got to be more than that too. Like we have to dig further down if you want to change it, where it's like you have to be able to discuss like, all right, this actually occurred. This person did kill themselves. Now,
yeah,
why did that occur? And look at the
yeah,
dynamics of it. Otherwise, the
yeah. I know
statistics,
what I mean. I just feel like that shit happens, man, and then it's like you talk about it for like 5 seconds, and the next day it's like it's all gone. It never happened.
yeah,
Instead of like having an open conversation to what we're going to do about it. I don't know. And do I know the answer? No, I don't know if I can answer, but I know staying silent ain't going to help. So I don't know. It's just one of the things that happens and everybody feels bad and they don't want to talk about it because they don't want to upset anybody. But facts are facts. It is what it is.
well,
So,
and the downstream effects are so critical that you do need to deal with it because like the statistics of like I got four kids. And I'm 43 years old. So if I
yeah,
kill myself today, the statistics are that there is a higher than 50% chance that one of my kids will kill themselves at roughly the same age that I did. So
right,
it is just creating a lineage that's pervasive across generations, So
right.
like you got to be able to talk about it with the people and actually like this did occur. Now let's face the truth and deal with it head on. Otherwise, the downstream effects are just bad, like very
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, yeah. I'm just, I don't know, man. Excuse me. I'm just fucking fed up with a lot of the shit and just everybody being quiet and not dealing with the issues that need to be dealt with and the lack of fucking mental health support with law enforcement administrations really chaps my ass to no end. Especially like after everything I went through, like I didn't have any fucking assistance or anything like that from my department for mental health. I had to do everything on my own to figure it out on my own. It's just it's concerning.
Yeah, my views on that have kind of shifted based on the fact that like I can't keep worrying about government agencies because I'll like it'll kill you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
So I've come to the realization that that's not their job. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
the only thing that any department, and this is like it's kind of like relieving that you have the same experiences that everybody does because at least it's all the
yeah.
same experience, right? But
Right.
but like uh they are not designed to help us mentally. Like the only thing that they want is to be able to check the box and be like, "Oh, we offered you support, whatever
Yeah,
that support is." And it's really like you can tell just by like, Hey, we had I've told this story before, but I think it just highlights the lack of insight that departments have. Like we were involved in an incident, officer involved shooting. We had a standoff with a dude in a car, and we ended up a couple guys shot him, and we were up all night, and it was pretty cut and dry. Like it was a good shoot and everything, but like there was a dozen of us that were working the next morning, and we've been up
Yeah,
for like 24 hours and just either watched this happen right in front of us, or we're part of the operation. And it was like, hey, we could use a few hours sleep. And they were like,
yeah,
nope, minimum counts, get to work. So we just had to
yeah,
change our shit and go to work. And it was
yeah,
like, if you really care about mental health, let us go home and sleep. And
yeah.
because that's the lowest barrier to fixing mental health is get a good night's sleep. Like,
Right. Yeah.
seems
I
pretty
know, dude.
basic.
Get out there and do the job and shut up. That's what it
Yeah,
is.
I mean but we care about your mental health. It's like, well, don't,
Hmm.
it's one or the other. Like, don't lie to me. Like, don't lie straight to my,
Right.
like, at least
Yeah.
lie around my back.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly, man. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, well, like, let's dig into kind of your background and how you got to where you're at. Like, I honestly just came across your stuff, so I'm
Yeah.
just starting to kind of learn about
Yeah.
you and your story and that kind of stuff. So fill me in on like your background and a little bit about your shooting maybe, and then how you transitioned to where you are now.
Yeah. So I got in law. I went to the Delaware State Police Academy in September of 2003. Graduated in February '04. I didn't work for state police. It's just the academy everybody kind of goes to here. Worked for a couple of small departments, then made it to the city of Milford, Delaware, which is where I was born and raised, and kind of where I had a goal to go work. So I went there, ended up doing 19 years, and during my time there, I was pretty fortunate actually. I spent a lot of my time in special units, which is what I wanted. I did my fair share of patrol. Got into K9, which is part of patrol, and then we had SWAT, detective unit, narcotics. I did for a while. Then I finally wrote it out the last few years with the U.S. Marshals Violent Fugitive Task Force. Um, so pretty good career, and then in my 17th year with the Marshals is when I had my shooting.
Yeah, so you got in on all four. Milford, I actually know a dude,
Where are
long time.
you at?
I'm in Indiana.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. You ever do any CrossFit out there? CrossFit Milford?
Yeah, I'm big at CrossFit. There's a CrossFit in Milford. It's not called Milford. Well, there used to be a CrossFit there years ago, and then it left, and now it's like a CrossFit-esque kind of gym, like a functional fitness gym.
So
But yeah.
the coach out there that I know is Jason Layden. I don't know if you ever heard that name before, but he is like,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I think I know Jason. Yeah,
yeah, he's like an
yeah,
OG CrossFit like badass. Like he's one of
yeah,
the I would call very few like original coaches where you're like, this dude's good. Like he is
yeah.
real.
Big runner, right?
Yes.
That's cool.
I met him once at a competition. I talked to him a couple
Yeah,
times online, but yeah, CrossFit
yeah,
Milford. And then some athletes that I used to compete with, I think used his programming or his coaching or something like
yeah.
that. So, yeah.
Small world, man.
Yeah. All right.
Um,
So 17 years on, was that the first shooting you've been into?
Yeah, yeah, that's my first shooting first shooting that I had fired my weapon in, yeah. I'd been
Okay.
around some other stuff in my career, but I had
Yeah.
never had to fire my weapon yet.
Okay. So yeah, let's get into that and discuss what happened.
Yeah, so typical day with the Marshals Task Force, we had my team specifically, we had four guys. Um and we had a normal work day, got home that evening, getting dinner ready, and we got a notification for an operation in the morning. They wanted to know who was available. Had this guy wanted out of Pennsylvania for attempted homicide, and the goal was to head out to this hotel in the morning with some of the guys from Pennsylvania and try to do this operation, apprehend this dude. So at the time, that hotel was like 10 minutes from my house. So I thought, oh man, this is good. I'll run out there, get some intel, make sure there's a car there, or whatever it may be, right? Plus, you get a couple hours of OT out of it, right? So I head on out there, do some surveillance real quick, see the vehicle, confirm the tag, call up my boss. Hey, vehicle's here. And I ended up seeing the guy. Confirmed his identity with the photo and everything. He was leaving. with his girlfriend and two small kids. Probably going to dinner. It was dinner time. They didn't have bags with them or anything, so I wasn't really concerned about it. So I let them go because I'm by myself, and then I go back home and talk it over with my teammates. And it really just wasn't sitting well with me, man. Like we just our whole objective is to locate violent fugitives. They just located the guy, and now it's like, oh, let's wait till the morning to go get him. I mean, it just wasn't sitting well with me. He could leave in the middle of the night. He could get pulled over by some random traffic cop. Something bad happens, you know. So we got approval to do the opt that night. So I head back out, set up perimeter around the hotel. Two of my partners get out there, set up perimeter with me, and the guy comes back to the hotel before the rest of the team can get there. We probably had about 10 or so guys en route for the operation. So we made the decision that we were going to take him right then and there in the parking lot, and as opposed to letting him get inside the hotel where you got a hostage situation, barricade, shots fired in a hotel room with other people around. It's just lot more dangerous of a situation. So we took him in the parking lot. I was going to pin the rear of the vehicle. They were going to do the driver's side and passenger side, and then he parked in a spot like in the front row where the hotel was like right in front of him. So we come in to execute it. I come up from the rear. One of my partners comes in on the passenger side to pin that door, and on the driver's side, my one partner had to stop short because there was another unrelated vehicle that was parked next to his. So when I pull up behind him, I get out, gun ready, and I came in at a really crappy angle. So when I opened my driver's side door, I was just like totally exposed down the driver's side of his vehicle. So when I step out on 2 feet, I'm basically like 6 feet from his door. And sure enough, his door cracks open, hand punches out, and I just start seeing muzzle flashes from about 6 feet away. I get my first round off, goes into his door, he comes down a few feet, fires a number of other rounds off at me. I get two more rounds off, straight him center mass. Didn't even feel it. The guy just kept coming. Like I didn't even know I hit him until a couple of days later, really. I don't know how many rounds he got off on me. He struck me with six. So I took one through my left shoulder, took one in my left hand, two in my right arm, the rest sitting there off my plate there, landed in my chin. And then I took one in my right femur, like just below my hip socket, that just totally dropped me at the back quarter panel. So at that point, I'm on the ground. I can't see shit. So I just start crawling, kind of shoved myself underneath the back of his car for cover. My two partners ended up engaging him at that point as this is going on. He runs by me as I'm crawling underneath the car and turns and engages both of them as he's running away. They kind of like converge on him through the parking lot and just pick him out probably about 75 yards or so on the parking lot. I think he ended up taking around 10 rounds before he went down. He went down in the middle of a reload. He had a 9mm Taurus. He goes down to the parking lot. Hotel starts emptying out, surrounded, calling us murderers, and we shot this guy who was unarmed and whatnot. So now my partner's got to make an executive decision. What are they going to do with me? Because they don't know if I'm dead or if I'm alive, basically. So they make the decision real quick that one's going to stay and one's going to leave with me. So the one comes over, yanks me up, straps a tourniquet on my leg, throws me in his vehicle, and takes off to the hospital. Luckily, within about a minute of us leaving, some other units started showing up on scene to give the other guys some backup in the parking lot. So get to the get to the hospital. As soon as we pull up to the ER entrance, he goes to like pull it and fully stop the vehicle, and the engine just dies right there at the ER entrance. So what happened was when he came up out of his holster for his first round actually went into his engine block, and somehow the vehicle just stayed running until we got to the ER door. It was insane. So they get me out, take me in, and I don't know how long it was till they knocked me out. But the last thing I remember is them trying to get like all my gear off and stuff. So while that's going on, there's got to be a notification for my wife, right? So at the time, my wife and I we were in between homes. We had sold a house and we were just breaking ground that week on a new home. So we were staying with her parents. So she was in bed with my son, who was 7 at the time, reading him a bedtime story. This is on a Thursday night. She starts getting text messages from friends probably within about 10 minutes of the shooting, because they'd already been out with word of mouth through, first responders and Facebook and all that kind of shit. So people start texting her like, "Hey, do you need anything? What's going on?" And she's not really getting any answers. What's happening? So finally, her friend calls her around that same couple minutes, and ends up being the one that has to notify her that I've been shot. And the word on the street was through, Copland was, a rumor mill goes, the word on the street was I had been shot in the face, which was partially true. So that's the only intel she had. So my father-in-law loads her up, takes her to the hospital, and while she's en route to the hospital, she finally gets a call from my department for the official notification, which could have been done a lot faster. Um, the process they took to get to that was way too long, but at the end of the day, they weren't going to beat the word of mouth from cell phones and social media and whatever else it just wasn't going to happen. So she gets to the hospital. They already have me out. I'm intubated. I'm there for about an hour. Then they fly me up to another hospital about an hour and a half north. Um, my wife's driven up there by my department. So this is Thursday night. They get me all settled in there, keep me sedated, keep me under until the next day about 2 o'clock. And that's when I have my first round of surgeries where I have some plates and pins put in my hands. I had a rod put in my femur from my hip socket to my knee, had a bunch of shrapnel dug out. Um, Later on down the road, a couple months later, I had 2 rounds that were still in me that had to be dug out. Um, so that was a Thursday night. I'm sorry, that was a Friday afternoon, Friday night. Uh, they started bringing me out of it a little bit here and there. I remember seeing like glimpses of like my wife and like my parents and stuff. And they were basically kicked out of the hospital because COVID restrictions, because this was December of 2020. So can't have visitors. So Saturday comes. Now I'm down in recovery. I'm starting to come out of it a lot more now, being aware of what's going on. And, I want to see my family, man. I want to see my wife. I want to see my son. And I can't. Their hospital's not going to let her in. But the one saving grace I had was because since I had been in the shooting, they were able to deem it a security issue. So I had a member of my agency with me, and I had a member of the Marshal Service with me 24 hours a day, which was great. I didn't have any time to be alone, which was good and bad. There's pros and cons to that. So I'm in the ICU for about 7 days. Day 7 comes. They're going to transport me to a live-in rehab facility for give or take 2 weeks. So my wife comes up. Finally, that day they let her in, and she comes in the room. All the guys leave, and to back up, when I was in the parking lot on the ground, um, there was a moment in time where everything just kind of went black on me. I was conscious alert, but there was a moment in time when everything just kind of went black. And I started thinking about family. I started thinking about life and death. And I had this voice in my head, man, and it was just kind of screaming at me, telling me that I had failed. You fucking failed. And I remember seeing my wife and my son in that moment. And when I first saw my wife in the hospital, she came over to the bed, and the first thing I said was, "I'm sorry I failed you." And without skipping a beat, man, she looked right back at me like, I mean, without skipping a beat, she said, "You've never failed, and you're not going to start now." And that was, man, that was really, I really needed to hear that from her, in that moment in time. Um, the outlook they had for me was up to 2 years before I could run again, which was really soul crushing because, I CrossFit, I've done Ironmans, marathons, like that's a big part of my life. And then my hands were another issue. Both my hands were broken. One was from the bullet. One was from the other hand was broken from when I fell on my plate carrier. I landed on it, and crushed every bone in my finger, in my hand. So I had a lot of problems there. Um, so I had that moment with my wife, and then they wheeled me downstairs outside to the ambulance, and I remember seeing my son for the first time, and that was tough, dude. He was 7, so now he's seeing me on the stretcher. I'm all wrapped up. My hands are wrapped up like boxing gloves. I got my legs all wrapped up so he can't see it. I got my one hand has like external fixators, like the metal rods coming out, keep the bone in place. I'm crying profusely. At the time, I worked plain clothes. So I had long hair. My hair was all fucked up, looked like a mess. And I remember looking at him. He was just like stone faced. Like it was like he was soulless, man. Like he was just a mannequin. And that really crushed me. The ambulance guys were great. They were going to transport me. They were like, look, we don't really give a shit about COVID. If your wife and your son want to jump on an ambulance for the ride, like they can get the fuck in here and we're going to roll. I was like, giddy up. So they got in, took a ride to the next place, which is about 45 minutes. Um, and it was good in that I got to relax with my son a little bit, smile, getting to know like, hey, I'm still dad. Like I got some bumps and bruises. We're gonna be okay. Blah blah blah. But at the same time, it was a fucking awful ride. Um, the back windows of that ambulance had, it has like two square windows, in the back doors. And I remember looking out those windows on that ride and just seeing that procession of all those red and blues, man. And all I could think about was all those processions that I had been in with that exact same view, but the person in my situation wasn't as fortunate as I was. And that really got to me because I was thinking about friends on the job that have been killed, coworkers, people, guys and girls I didn't even know, whose processions and funerals I'd been to. And that was crushing for me, man. That was a big hit with that survivor's guilt. And that I took a big punch on that one for a while. Um, so they get me down to the rehab, the live-in rehab. We get there about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. They wheel me out, take me upstairs in my room. Luckily, I had my own room, and it was me, my wife, and 2 or 3 administrators from the hospital. And it was a quick meet and greet, like, hey, welcome. We'll be back here in the morning, give you more information on how things are going to be. It's COVID, can't have visitors, but we're going to make an exception. Your wife can come up here as much as she wants between visiting hours, which is 8 to 8, and that'll be it. I'm like, all right, I'll take it. So it's late, so she leaves. And now I'm in this room for the first time where I actually have a minute to myself. Because for that 7 days, I wasn't alone. I mean, I was bedridden. So, I mean, even to go to the bathroom, somebody was with me. Like, I couldn't, not 1 second was I alone. It was constant small talk with whoever was there with me and like quick cat naps because I was just in and out, with all the meds I was on. So now I'm in this room at night and shit's starting to turn, man. Like, how bad is this? What's my life going to be like? Am I going to be a fucking burden now to my family? Is my wife going to have to take care of me because I can't walk or I can't use my hands? Am I going to be able to play baseball with my son? Um, all those kinds of things started hitting me. And about 6 a.m. came and my door opened up, in swing door. I remember it swung in for the nurse that was coming in to like give me my morning meds and shots. And that light just came in from the hallway and shined on that door. And dude, for some reason, I don't know why, like our minds just like remember things at the right time. And it made me think about a book that I read about 6 years prior, and it was called The Trident by Jason Redman. And I won't get into Jay's story, but Jay was a SEAL, was really injured back in '07, spent some time in Walter Reed. And during his time in Walter Reed, he came up with this sign on the door where he made this sign, put up on his door, and it was basically a motivational tool, long story short. And I thought, man, that's a really good fucking idea. So my wife comes up at 8 for visiting hours. I'm like, hey, I need you to get me a marker and poster board. This is what I'm looking to do. She's like, okay, well, what do you want me to write? Because my hands were all, I couldn't move my fingers, they were broken. So she took a marker, stuck it in my cast, and I just kind of like etch a sketched it onto this poster board the best I could. Because I wanted it up there in my own handwriting, good, bad, or different. So I made this sign up, put a couple patches on it, put it up on the door. Um, and probably within like 3 minutes, I had staff in there. Like the president was there, like asking me, the president of the hospital, like, what's wrong? Like, who pissed you off? Because I had the sign up there. I'm like, dude, I've been here 12 hours. Nobody's pissed me off. I'm like, I've been in bed. So, but I just told her what it was. It was the sign was what it was. It was a motivational tool. But the one was it was a warning, dude. It was a warning. I didn't want people coming in there with shitty attitudes, with this pity party idea. I didn't want any. I didn't with sad faces, thinking this poor cop, this poor guy, and all this kind of garbage. I wanted an uplifting environment because that's what I needed. I needed smiling faces. I needed good attitudes. That's what I needed. I started every day with music on my phone. Every day at 07, I called shift and do shift change with the guys, see how they did. And the other was I had goals, and I needed somebody to hold myself accountable. And the only person that could do that was me. So that sign was a big accountability booster for me. So I knew every morning I woke up, I was going to wake up to that door coming in with the nurse, and the first thing I was going to see was that sign. And if I didn't live my day by that sign, then I was just a hypocrite, man. And that's not what I wanted. Um, so I put it up there, and I came up with a game plan. Um, you got to figure out what your long term goals are. My nearest one was 2 weeks away. I wanted to get out of there on my own without a walker. The game plan for them was if we can get you out of here on a walker, like we're doing something, we're setting you up for success. Well, that's great, but if you're going to hold me to this standard, I know I can hold myself to a higher standard because you don't have me. That's the way I kind of live my life. But the longest term goal I had was, like I said, I'm big into fitness, so they're giving me a 2-year recovery. I'm like, I can beat that. I'm gonna do a half marathon in under 12 months. And I picked a half marathon because that was always my favorite race to do. So to get there, to meet those long-term goals, what do you got to do? You got to come up with smaller goals, right? You got to have those small wins, those small victories along the way to give yourself that motivation, to give yourself that confidence going forward. And that's what I did. So, for instance, if they gave me 3 repetitions of something to do, I would do 4 or 5 or 6. If it was, 4 rounds, I did 5 or 6. Um, if one day the goal was to walk 2 doors down with my walker, then the next day it was to walk 4 doors down, and then 6 and 8. And by the end of the week, I'm going to be at the nurse station and back. And by next week, I want to be walking without a walker. So just small goals like that I could check off every day to keep that motivation moving. And it worked. I spent my time in there chipping away at these small goals, these micro goals, as I call them, giving myself those small wins. Um, the 13th day comes. I had a doctor's appointment in the morning, get some shrapnel dug out of my face, had some shrapnel that was kind of peppered around my cheekbone. Um, so I got that all taken out. Then that afternoon, they were going to release me a day early. So that day comes, the afternoon comes. They come in with this wheelchair, like, hey, it's time to go, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, that's great. I don't need the wheelchair. I'm going to walk out. I can do it. Well, you have to go out in the wheelchair to the door, and then you can walk to your wife's car. So long story short, about 15-minute conversation on I'm walking out on my own, or I'll stay here as long as it takes because it's not going to happen. So we came to the agreement that they let me walk out alone as though somebody was behind me with a wheelchair. I'm like, yeah, okay, that works. So made it down the hallway, went down the elevator, walked out the wife's car, headed home. Um, Got home, man, pulled in the driveway, surprised my son. He ran out to the car, jumped in the car in my lap, hurt like shit because he jumped right on my leg. But I didn't care, man. As much as it hurt, it felt so good to just give him a big hug. Um, Worked my way into the house. Like I said, we lived with my in-laws, so they were there. My parents were there. And the next day, my wife took care of everything. She set up my outpatient physical therapy the next day, which was New Year's Eve. Um, she called in the outpatient therapy place to get me in. They're like, well, it's New Year's Eve. We don't have anybody here tonight. And they didn't know who I was, what the situation was. They just knew I was somebody scheduling therapy for these reasons, or these injuries or whatever. And there was a therapist working there that night who was like, I don't have any plans. Like, I got time, like, schedule it, blah, 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 blah. So I get there and they're like, holy Jesus. Like, what is this guy? What does this guy have going on, man? Because I looked a mess. I had all these severe injuries and shit. And she ended up being my physical therapist for my entire time, man. She gave me her goals and expectations for me. I gave her mine back. And she helped me get there, man. She when she saw if I was lacking, she was there to help me pick it up because she knew I could take it. And she knew I had goals and she knew I was serious about it. And before you know it, man, I'm in outpatient physical therapy for about 4 months. And then she gets me outside one day, start running, if you could call it that. It was like a short little stumble, about a half block and half block back. And I just started tacking on the miles, man, as much as I could, working myself up to a mile run, 2 mile run, 5 mile run. And then the closest half marathon I could find to sign up for that was within a reasonable distance to me was in November. So about 11 months post shooting. I signed up for that, which was actually about a mile away from where my shooting was kind of fitting. Um, so I go there to run that marathon or a half marathon rather, and started out, man, got to mile 7, realized I started out the gate way too fast and started hitting me really, really bad, man. Um, and then, I just went into that thought process and that mindset where, um, honestly, I just started visualizing him. I started visualizing, the suspect and that face that I saw during that, during that shooting. And I just started talking to him like out loud as I'm passing people. And next thing you know, everyone's parting like the Red Sea because there's this crazy guy screaming at us. Worked my way through it, got to mile 13 marker, and I just started bawling like a baby because I realized I was getting ready to accomplish one, what I had set out to do, and two, what a lot of people said, don't count on it, you know? And across the finish line, it ended up being my fastest half marathon I'd ever run. I collapsed as I got over the line, one, because my leg hurt like shit. And two, emotionally, I was just experiencing something that I had never experienced. I mean, I collapsed on the boardwalk at Rehoboth Beach, and it was happiness, sadness, anger, frustration, hatred. I mean, everything you could imagine was just exploding at one time, man. And um, it was just such an amazing, amazing feeling that I wanted to feel it again. So 2 weeks later, I ran another one, um, and I ran that one about a minute faster. And from there, I just kept it going, man. That was, the second one was December. It was about 6 days shy of the 1 year mark. March came. Me and some buddies did the Goggins Challenge, 4x4x48, which is 4 miles every 4 hours, 48 hours. I did that. June came. I did a half-Ironman, which is 70 miles, and just kept it going, man. To try to push myself and push myself. Um, and then at about a year and nine or 10 months, the decision came from my doctors that they were going to retire me out because my hands weren't suited to go back to duty, and they weren't wrong. I mean, as much as I didn't like it, at the end of the day, they made the right decision, um, not signing off on me to go back. And it hurt for a while, but it was also really good, man, because my son's biggest hang up on the whole thing was me going back to work. Like he was 7 at the when it happened. When I retired, he was, almost 9, 409. And it's just, I saw a whole change in his attitude and his mindset and spirits. And that was worth getting out of the job for me. That was, at that point, it was 19 years that I had on then. Um, and it was, you know, transition was hard. Transition is hard. I've been retired for 2 years. I'm still figuring my way through it. I'm doing the best I can, and I like what I'm doing. But getting out of the job is it's hard when you're not expecting it.
Oh, I'd imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, especially going through like all of that cumulatively, and then too, like that you like I can tell that it's clearly still a big part of your identity and always will be,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And even more so because like when you get into the job, you want to get into the like anybody that gets into specialized units quickly is really motivated to do all the high speed stuff. Like it
yeah,
becomes like this is who I am. It's kind of like I remember feeling this way like graduating college playing football where I'm like,
yeah,
who am I now? You know what I mean? I'm
yeah,
just some dude. Like I was a college football player, and now I'm just some dude. And then you get into law enforcement, it's like, oh, this feels the same. Now this is
yeah,
who I am. Now I'm on a SWAT team. Now this is who I am. And it's
yeah,
like And all of a sudden, one day you're doing the thing that you're super good at that you've been doing for almost 20 years, and then
Yeah.
it's over,
Yeah.
through maybe no fault of your own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can always second guess tactics, and I'm sure like do you second guess your tactics at all, or is it just like is what
No, I don't. And that was something I accepted everything very early. Tactics was part of it. I mean, for a while, I beat myself up a little bit because I knew the angle I came in with my vehicle was totally just fucking wrong. Um, but I also recognize that it doesn't matter how you do it, something can still go wrong if you do it. But if you do it textbook, something can still go wrong. I could have pulled in perfectly behind that guy, bumper to bumper, and took one round through the windshield. You know what I mean? You don't
just
know. But all
just
I know is that the way I did do it, if I can survive,
yeah.
that's what I can do. I can't go back and Monday morning quarterback or second guess it because it doesn't matter. I can't go back and change it.
Yeah, so like the athlete in me always like with my stuff, I'm always looking at body cams now. Like I love body cams because I can go break the film down, right? But
Right.
but the thing that's different about what we do in sports is that dude, it is so messy. It is beyond messy that
Yeah.
and this dude, like you were getting into a gunfight with this guy, whether it was in the car, whether it was on that approach, whether it was in
Yeah.
the house or the apartment or the whatever, like that dude was
Yeah.
having a gunfight with the cops. And
Right.
we are so far behind the eight ball that it's
Yeah.
action versus reaction. Like somebody's getting shot in that scenario. So
Right.
much. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
unavoidable.
Yeah, that's my thing. And that's why like I definitely don't ever regret or never did regret waiting for more guys to get there to do it in the hotel because like you said, that guy was gonna shoot.
Yep.
And if that were to happen, like we weren't able to return fire in a hotel room where there's kids and a girlfriend, not to mention there's other rooms around that room with innocent people. So we felt in that moment that doing it in the parking lot was the best way to do it.
Yeah.
Could my conduct been better? Yeah, 100%. They could have been better. But at the end of the day, does it matter? I'm fucking here. I love my life. I love everything about it, and I wouldn't have the life I have now if it weren't for everything I had to go through to get here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's kind
absolutely.
of
So what do you think? Because what do you think helped you get through that incident? Like the training and everything that you've done leading up to it, like what was, if you could pinpoint like one or two things that pulled you through that you didn't just like get hit and lay there to die. Like you
yeah,
continued to fight, you continued to like,
yeah,
seek cover, that kind of stuff.
yeah. I mean, like training at work, tactics and medical training and stuff like that, learning how to fight through it, like that's all part of it. It's a combination of things. Another being, be honest with you, like CrossFit, going to CrossFit every day and busting my ass and pushing myself to no end really helps give you that mindset that you can do more than you think, in my opinion. So I credit CrossFit with a lot of that, with not just the physical part, but the mindset part. And another thing, and probably the most important, my family. I was not going to lose my family. That was number one to me, and my family was not going to lose me. I wanted to be there for my son. I wanted to be there for my wife. I didn't want them to have to go through life without me. And that was the biggest driving factor of anything for me to get through the whole aspect of it. So,
Um, let's talk about that for a second. And like that was like looking at your media and stuff, you talked about that conversation with your wife and the voice that you heard. There's, like you read like research on psychology and stuff like that, and yeah, traumatic incidents and things that people have internally occur. And like I've had that same thing happen with
yeah,
incidents where I've heard things that nobody else heard,
right.
and like m- maybe I see symbolism a little bit too much in certain contexts, but I
Yeah,
definitely think that it's things happen, you hear things, you see things, whether it's just you or multiple people, like it's there for a reason,
yeah,
and you can't ignore that. Um, like so one of my buddies one time said it was a shooting that we had, and he was like, I should have pulled the trigger earlier. And it was like, well, why didn't you? Because he's a good dude and good shot, makes good
yeah,
decisions, right? And he was like, I saw a light behind him, and I thought it was a squad, so I didn't want to pull the trigger. I was like, okay, well, that's reasonable. Like you didn't want to
yeah,
shoot one one of our dudes, right?
But
And then she starts asking around, and he was like, nobody else saw it. There was nobody there. I go, dude, you saw that for a reason, man. I go, whether it was just for you or something else, like I firmly believe that occurred, that you saw that and you
yeah,
reacted in the way that you should have, and you delayed your shot. And it
yeah,
was for whatever reason. Who knows? Maybe it was like that dude wasn't supposed to be dead today, you know?
yeah,
Like who knows? But
yeah.
anyway, like going back to your story, like the voice that you heard about you failing, what do you think that was?
Initially, um, I just kind of chalked up to like a voice in my head, like that voice, that negative voice that we all carry with us sometimes, like telling you you're not good enough, you're a failure, and things like that. Kind of chalked up to that. And since then, I don't know, man. Sometimes I wonder, like, maybe it wasn't a negative voice at all. Because at the end of the day, much as it was screaming at me and taunting me, maybe it wasn't a voice that wanted me to lose. Maybe it was actually the voice that was trying to save me, And I've come to that. Maybe that was God talking to me, telling me like, no, 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 no. You haven't lost yet. You're not a failure, but you're going to be if you don't get together and start moving. And that's kind of where my mind shift has kind of shifted with that voice over time. I think it was actually a higher power getting to me. Or that there were so many things with that incident, like you know, if you look at like the engine, the engine took around and stayed afloat until it pulled up to the ER door. He didn't have it in park yet, and it just shut off as he was slowing down to stop. It stayed running the entire time, which is insane. So that the voice, the vision I had with my wife and my son as I was on the ground, I really chalked that voice up to being a higher power now, not one of negativity, but one of hope and inspiration, really.
Yeah, I think so too. Just my assessment of that, and like what I hear is, and
Yeah,
take it for what it's worth because I just met you,
yeah,
but like we're motivated by things differently, right? So like
yeah,
you might be the guy that's like you get ramped up by somebody telling you like you can't do it, like oh fuck you, I can too, watch this, right?
yeah,
And like I'm not like that. So maybe that's why like that came to you in that context. Like you failed,
yeah,
like the fuck I did. Like
yeah,
I'm getting through this. And then I
right,
also think that and this is just because I heard it several times that you brought it up in other discussions, that conversation needed to happen with your wife.
yeah,
And without hearing that voice, I don't think you would have had it. So
yeah,
like that reassurance helped you like cascade. Like that thing
yeah,
that conversation was the linchpin for you transitioning, you know?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, that conversation with her in the hospital where I mentioned, apologize for failing and her hit me back with never failed was when I first said that I'm sorry for failing you. I regretted that for a while, actually, like telling her that. Um, but as time went on, I realized like number one, she needed to hear it because she needed to know how I felt, what was going on through my mind. You know what I mean? And also what I got back out of that, I would have got if I didn't say that to her. So again, no regrets. So looking back on that one, and that's one thing I'm big on now is like communication, especially with guys on the job. Like the old school saying of "don't take the job home with you." Basically like shove it away and don't talk about it, which is such bullshit. Um, I get tired of that, man. So like my wife and I have great communication. We talk about everything. If I wake up in the morning, I feel like my day's starting out with a bad moment from whatever reason. She knows about it. She knows why. Because I want her to know that it's not her, it's what I'm working out. So communication is really big in my family with her, me, my son. We're really big on open communication in my household.
Now I will say that's awesome that you have that. And again, I would go back to that conversation where you're like, like that conversation had to happen and it just showed you like you have unconditional support,
Yeah,
100%. Like I
yeah,
got you. And in a super healthy relationship, that's awesome. Now, if
yeah,
like depending on your partner, like they might not be able to tolerate the stress
yeah,
that your stress is bringing them, which sucks
yeah,
because you have to like carry it yourself. Um,
right,
and then that a lot of times that will result in that coming out in inappropriate ways later in different
right,
ways.
yeah,
So if you don't have the support, like your partner is not able to do it, right, for whatever reason, then it's your job to figure out like how can I find that support in an appropriate way, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like whether it's a shipmate, a good friend, professionally, whatever it may be, there's no wrong answer. It's just find what works for you. And it might take you a while to find it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But try new things, you know? Like for me, I didn't go to a therapist until about almost a year and a half after it happened. And I went to the guy, had one session with him, hated it. It was a really bad experience. The guy, I didn't care for the guy at all, and it rubbed me the wrong way and put me off. And I didn't go to a therapist again until just recently. About a month ago, I started going back again
Why was that?
because
Why do you think that? Like it didn't go well?
well, the whole he started off the whole meeting before I even got into my story about how his opinion on PTSD out of nowhere. He started talking about PTSD and how it's overdiagnosed and he doesn't really believe in it. And I'm like, this is going to go well. And then I went through my whole story, which was about 45-minute meeting, and he was like, "Well, it sounds like you're doing really well. So if you need anything else, just give me a call." And I was like, "Wow, man, you're really a fucking asshole."
Hmm.
Um, so the whole thing just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, as you can imagine, and I gave it up. But I didn't give up everything that was, I mean, I was doing stuff that worked for me, you know, communication with my wife, communication with my friends and my teammates, public speaking, fitness is a big thing. It's a big thing for me. You know, I go to the gym every day. I do rucks, 3 to 5 days a week. So that's a big, huge part of my life. I journal. That's a big thing for me, with mental health. Um, but I just started going back to the therapist recently and just not because I was struggling with anything in particular, just because I want to go talk about stuff because I don't want to. My wife knows everything, but I don't want to burn her out all the time with the conversation. I'll go burn out a therapist with it. You know what I mean? So that's pretty much the reason. But to each their own. Find what works for you. Don't hold yourself to one thing. Like get out there and try new things.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing to point out. It's like, even when you talk about stuff like journaling works for you, but like so some people have a hard time with it. And it's like you
Yeah,
try to hammer that out. It's like, no, I'm supposed to journal. The counselor told me to journal. I have to journal. And then it just
yeah,
messes with you. Or meditation's a big one too, especially for
yeah,
like guys like us, where it's like I
yeah.
can't sit still
I
for
can.
2 minutes at a time. So then
Yeah, I can.
you're like, but I'm supposed to, but I
Yeah,
can't do it. Like, what's wrong with
yeah,
me? Like
yeah,
nothing. This just isn't
yeah,
you. Like we just have to
yeah,
figure out a way to
yeah,
regulate your nervous system, and that's going to be a little bit of an individual thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Meditation. I'm one of those guys. I try it, man. I try so hard. It's hard for me. Like I'm always on the move, man. I gotta be moving. It's like golf. A lot of my friends golf. I hate golf. It's too slow paced. I can't do it. Like I gotta be in it to win it, man. So I'm not a golfer, but things like that, they're great. It's just that's not what works for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
the so I don't know if you know who Jill Miller is, but she's an old school like yoga teacher. She was involved with CrossFit like way back in like
yeah,
2010, 2011. She started doing stuff with Kelly Starrett, but she has a ton of information on like how to what she say, how to power up your parasympathetic nervous system. And usually we think the other way because everything we do is sympathetic. And for our population, like it is so easy to go
yeah,
hard, to do CrossFit, to do jujitsu, to go run till you puke. Like we like
yeah,
doing that. So
yeah,
like what's hard to do sometimes is like you have to learn how to like shift down and you have to learn how to relax.
yeah,
Especially as I get older, like I can't train the way I used to. I break in half, right? So
yeah.
so I have to learn how to power down and recover harder, and
Right.
then that helps me still train hard. But that's really hard to find that for people that do what we do.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's it, man. I gotta stay on the grind. I can't sit still too much, man. It's just I can't. Yeah.
Um, so can we talk about like your son's response a little bit?
Hmm. Yeah.
So, um, so I hear that like he was relieved when you were like, "Hey, I'm cashing out here. I'm going medically retiring,"
Yeah.
and it's totally reasonable that he'd be like, man, I was 7 years old. I saw my dad about dead. I really don't
Yeah.
want to do that again. But what did you guys do for him, or did you do anything for him through all this and after all this?
Well, after it happened, My wife had a meeting with the school just to talk to them about, like people talking about it, kids talking about it, whatever it may be, to make sure he was safe in there and everything was as normal as possible. And outside of that, I when I got home from the hospital, I made him I purposely made him part of the healing process. And what I mean by that is I gave him jobs to do. So helping me get my leg up on the bed, and when I go to bed at night or getting out of bed, or helping me, get something to drink or make a sandwich or, get my walk or whatever it may be. I gave him jobs to do so that he felt that he was doing his part to help me get better and to heal up, right? Like I wanted him to know that he was part of that healing process, that he actually did something that contributed to my health and my well-being. And I think that went a long way. I mean, even when I started running, he would go on runs with me. Um, when I started running, he had just turned 8. And he was like, "I'll go for a run with you." And I'm like, "Okay." Like he would just go, even if it was a rainy day and I was running in the rain. He'd be like, "Can I go?" "Yep, you can go." Um, so I think doing things like that with him really, really went a long way in helping him process everything and basically accept it. And aside from that, he had some anxiety for a while. He went to a counselor for a little bit for some anxiety issues. Nothing, nothing too crazy. But most of it, his biggest problem was just concerning. His concern was me going back to work. He was like, "I don't want you to be a cop anymore. Like, I want you to find something else." And that was tough, man, because um, we have a 20-year retirement. So I'm like, I want to go. One, I want to go back to get my 20-year pension as opposed to a medical pension. I wanted to go back because it's a job that I loved, and I hadn't lost any love for it just because that happened. I mean, I worked in a high risk unit, man. Like I accepted that from day one. Like I got shot and woke up in hospital, and I was like, all right, well, it happened. It's part of the job, The way my brain processes it is, um, if you're a painter and you fall off a ladder and break your leg, what do you got? You got a work injury. Well, I got a work injury. I got shot. I deal with guns for a living. You know what I mean? I got hurt in the job. I'll heal up and I'll get back to work. That was my thought process. My wife was, she didn't want me to go back to work either, but she was um, she was accepting of it. She was like, this is who I married. You were a cop when I married you. This is who you are. This is what you like to do. She's like, do I want you to find something else? She's, yeah, it'd be great. But if you want to go back to work, I fully support you because this is who you are. So I had that support. So I kind of struggled with that, like going back or leaving for a while. But at the end of the day, it kind of worked out best because the decision wasn't up to me; it was up to the doctors. Um, and as much as it hurt me to have to leave, it felt it wasn't as bad when I got to see the look on my kid's face, man. Like you could tell he was just like a rock was just taken off his back. You know what I mean? So it was worth it, man. You just make the best of it and accept it for what it is because you can't do anything about it and you move on with it. But it was hard because at that point it was okay, well, I was, 41 or whatever, and I went to the academy when I was 21. So it was like, okay, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? You know what I mean? Let me figure that out real quick, kind of deal. So that was difficult, but um, yeah, he handled it all pretty well, I think, compared to what most people probably think or expect. He handled it really well. It's just the thought of me going back to work, which got worked out. So
Yeah, and I mean that I think that's an important piece to kind of put together too, is that like a symptom of PTSD is like
yeah,
having dread and panic that your loved ones are going to die when they're not around you, and it creates this anxious attachment.
yeah,
Um, so usually we think about that in the context of us, like you're the one that got shot, like this is an issue
yeah,
that you'll have, but it's actually a dynamic. Like it affects, like
yeah,
this incident affected everybody within your family dynamic,
right.
and then friends too. So, to recognize that and treat that as well, I think is really important, especially in that formative time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy time, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been. That's the way I look at it. I feel like I'm very thankful for how everything worked out, and not that I had it easy, but I know there's always people that have it worse than you. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the way I chalk it up. I don't have any regrets with anything. I'm not mad about anything. I'm not even mad that I got shot. It is what it is. Because like I said, I wouldn't be where I am had I not had that experience. And I love my life. I love where I'm at. I feel like I've changed, with things in my life, how I look at life, how I treat people. Not that I treat people bad, but I just look at things a lot closely now. Um, so I mean, ultimately, I feel like I'm a better human being overall because of what happened to me.
What do you think changed? Like if you could say one or two things about how you
Well, one thing, as a cop, especially like a cop, when you're doing things like that, you're immersed in it, man. Like it's work, 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 work. Work is the job comes before anything, comes before family time because you're part of a team, and when one man goes, we all gotta go. We're all going, morning, night, weekends, whatever it may be. I gotta go. Sorry. Oh, I know we had dinner, but Josh has this Fugitive just popped up, and the team's going out. I gotta go. Um, so the one thing I do in my life now is I family comes before anything. It comes before my work now. I schedule things around my son's activities, family activities, whatever it may be. Family comes first before everything. I don't care what it is. That's just kind of the way I treat things now. Um, Kind of slowed down my life a little bit as far as being so intense as much as intense as I was with life back then, I guess you could say. Like, I don't know if you could get it, but like, living a life, living a cop life, man, like you're always just immersed in it. You know what I mean? Like it's full blast, go, 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 go. I try to slow that down a little bit now and try to enjoy the things that I have and the time I have. Um, I don't know, man. I just feel like I'm a lot somewhat more at peace now than I was back then. I don't have the politics of work getting to me. Um, And even now, like everything you do in life, there's always some kind of politics involved, whatever it may be, work politics. I don't let that shit get to me now, man. I'm a lot more laid back now. Like, I just want to enjoy my life and have a good time with my family.
Yeah. Yeah, it took me a while to figure that out too, especially with like
Yeah,
work politics, where it's like
yeah,
you're so concerned about all these things that really in the
yeah,
grand scheme of things don't matter.
yeah,
Who's getting promoted or who's
yeah,
like the drama or like this dude's
yeah,
full of shit. Like who cares, man? Just
yeah,
so
yeah.
like with that said, the way you look at it now, if you had to go back and like before you're shooting, like would you change things? Would you prioritize things differently?
I've thought about that before. I don't know, man. It's tough because, in a perfect world, like, yeah, I would go back, I guess, and try to prioritize. I probably would in some ways, but at the end of the day, like, being on a team like that, dude, like whether it's SWAT or a fugitive task force or whatever you're in, narcotics, whatever it is, like if your team goes, like you're going to go. And I feel like if you're on a team like that, they deserve your time, and that's just part of the job, unfortunately. So I don't know if I would take away time like that. I'd probably put more thought into it, I guess you could say. That's probably some things I could have missed out on, obviously. Um, I don't know, man. It's tough. Because my whole thing was like sometimes I didn't always want to go. It was like I gotta go because if I don't go and something happens, I'm gonna feel really fucking bad that I wasn't there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's really the main reason why I went probably, 80% of the time. It was like I don't want to be the guy that wasn't there. I want to be
Yeah.
there from a team.
Yeah.
So to go back and say I wouldn't do that again, if I told you that like, yeah, I want to go back and do that, I'd be lying to you because I'd do it. I'd do it for the guys.
Yeah, I don't know if you felt like this, but I've had this conversation with dudes at work where it's like, like I when I'm at home, I feel like I need to go to work. I feel like I
Yeah,
need to be there. And when I'm at work, I feel like I need to get back home. So it's like you're
yeah.
never really at peace with where you're at because you're always
No.
getting these two directions.
Yeah, I agree, man. Because every time I went, it was like, all right, let's get this wrapped up, get out of here real quick. Boom, 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 boom. Just like that night, like they want to do it in the morning. And I'm like, yeah, let's just do it tonight and get it over with. My wife was like, you're going now? I'm like, yeah, it'll be quick. The guys, the hotel's 10 minutes from here. Guys are en route. We'll pick him up, keep him out of there. I'll be home in like 2 hours. No big deal. Whatever. Maybe not even 2 hours. And, 3 weeks later, I came.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But that's the way you look at it. You're like, ah, we'll get it done real quick. We'll be back. Don't worry. You know?
Yeah. And I mean, it gets so hard because like you get so used to things going the way they're supposed to, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, one of my captains now, he was in a big shootout. And the initial call was something super basic. It was like a well-being check on a kid that
Yeah.
had some mental illness issues. And it was
Yeah.
like, lo and behold, the dude was waiting for him in the garage.
Yeah.
And if they would have done what they were going to do initially, they would have been ambushed completely.
Right.
Luckily, somebody was like, "Hey, hang on a second," like pulled people back, so they just got shot at through a window and it didn't
Yeah.
didn't hit anybody. But uh, but yeah, his whole thing is like every call is real. You know, every call
Yeah.
is real, and that
Yeah.
can create its own sense of hypervigilance because, like, man, you get burned out doing that. But like, where do you want to hedge your bets? You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. It was I don't have any regrets with any of that kind of stuff because at the end of the day, like if I said I'd go back and change it, I probably would change it. You know, I just wouldn't change it. You know, it just I feel like it's a job where like you make the best of it, you know, that you can, and you know, you signed up for it, you got to do it. You know, it sucks, but it's part of the game.
Yeah, and I think it's worth saying again, like the fact that we don't get to dictate how things start. You know what I mean? Like it's kind
Yeah,
of like the perps always have the head start. They always have
yeah,
it. They always had and
yeah,
they always will. So it's
yeah,
like you can't, and I've had these discussions too at length. Like you talk about CQB and angles and how to enter a room. It's like at some point it's a 50-50 gunfight no matter how you slice it.
right.
And you can't mitigate all risk or like you can't eliminate all risk. You can mitigate as much as you can, but at some point,
Yeah,
like you just got to go fucking do it, man. And
yeah,
it's like it's cops and robbers. That's what it is, you know?
yeah, yeah. There's no perfect way, man. There's no
Yeah.
perfect way. You know, there's no perfect. Nothing ever goes. I've never had an ops plan go perfectly as it was designed ever. I don't think. You know what I mean? There's
Right.
always something changing. You know,
Yeah.
everything's fluid.
Either a person or a terrain or something that wasn't
Right.
there, a car's parked where it shouldn't be, you know,
Yeah.
like it happens all the time. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, looking at now, so like this has been 5 years, right?
Going
Ish.
on. Yeah.
Going on.
December will be 5 years.
So
Yeah.
how has it changed? Like looking at it, like even like a year or two after, like when you look at the incident versus now, like what has anything changed? Does it mean anything different to you now versus then?
Uh, no, I don't think anything's changed. I mean, you know, my perception of the voice has changed. You know, like things like that. But as far as like the whole, no. For a while, the first 3 years, 'cause I still live 10 minutes from that from the spot. I drive by it every day. Everywhere I go, it's on the way to everywhere I go. Um, so every year on the anniversary, I would go there with my wife, just kind of like have a beer or something in the parking lot, but just kind of like to not to like to be somber or anything, but like it's kind of like a victory lap for me, you know.
Yeah.
This past December, I didn't go. It was like I still feel the need. I was like, I don't even want to fucking go there just because I don't care. You know what I mean? Before that, when I got home from the hospital, for the my first day home from the hospital, we went to my physical therapy. Um, we had to ride by it to go to physical therapy, and I remember I had a panic attack when we rode by it. And the next day, we rode by it again. And before we got to it, I told my wife I was like whipping the parking lot, just so I could go there and sit there for a minute and just kind of eat it and chew on it for a while, just because, being that kind of guy, I like to face shit head on. I don't like things out there lingering and being a problem. This was going to be a problem, and I wanted to cut it off as quick as possible. Now, in hindsight, should I have done that without talking it over with my wife first? Probably should have talked to my wife first because, you're not thinking about how that affected her. Like her pulling into the parking lot where her husband almost died. I didn't think about that in the moment. But I continued to do that for a while. Just kind of go there randomly, have some coffee, chew on it for a while. And even like till today, like once in a blue moon, man, like I might be in there on my way somewhere, running early for something. There's a coffee place next door. I'll grab some coffee, sit there in the parking lot, just do my emails, and not even like to think about the incident, but just kind of like again, it's like a victory lap. Like I can sit in this parking lot, do what I gotta do, do some emails and not even think about it because I've conditioned myself that this is no different than any other parking lot at this point, you know.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a victory lap for me when I go do it, I guess.
Well,
Just to show myself, and to show that voice up there, whatever it may be, that I win. You're not going to beat me.
yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, to unpack that a little bit, like the initial one is called, it's a counseling technique called flooding, right? So it's like, if I'm afraid of spiders, I'm gonna throw a bunch of spiders on you and we're
Yeah,
gonna get over this, right?
yeah,
So like you flooded yourself and by proxy, you flooded your wife too, which
yeah,
probably
yeah,
wasn't exactly clear there. But
yeah,
hey,
yeah,
like you guys sat through it, you got through it, and then you go on with your day, right?
yep,
And to continue to do it is basically like microdosing that and
yeah,
then adding that layer of control. Like a lot of the stuff that you've done, and I made some notes on it, like the way you set goals, the way you made that sign early on, the way that you did that stuff was an effort to take control of the situation and the things that you could. And then
right,
that shift from external locus of control, like you didn't have control over that dude's actions, the bullets that came at you, no
yeah,
control, right?
right,
What do you have control over, and what can I internalize and return that locus of control to the internal versus the external? And then that aids in healing and mental, emotional stability, and like all the stuff on the back end that you were able to do. And a lot of it was because of the way that you framed control of the things that you could.
yeah, yeah. That's kind of what I do with everything, and even before that, like I've always been a believer in control what you can control outside of that. Don't let it get to you. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I continue to do things. And I remember when I woke up at the hospital. So on the way to the first hospital, when I was being medevac by my partner, my leg was in bad shape, and I remember convincing myself that I was going to lose that leg. Like this leg's gone. They're going to take it. You'll be an amputee, but it'll be cool, man. No worries. Like people do it every day. They still go on, have great lives. People run, whatever they can do. I'll do the same thing, right? Fuck it. Take the leg. I don't care. As long as I survive. And I remember waking up in the hospital and looking down and seeing it still there because I was, the thought is I can't control if that leg goes or not. I got to make the best of it. And I remember waking up and looking down and being surprised I still had it. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to be surprised that I had it, not that I had lost it. So that was one of those things that like I couldn't control. I could only control my response, and that was my way of controlling my response to that was just to prepare for it, right? Accept it and prepare for it. Um, I was going somewhere else with that conversation right there. It just lost me. But that was one of those things where like I couldn't control that. But what I could control is, you know, how my brain was going to process it and how I was going to handle it going forward. And you got to prepare for those kinds of things and have a game plan in place to do that. And that's what I wanted going forward. Everything with the rehab was I wanted a game plan in place. I needed some structure. I needed to know what I was shooting for, and I needed to know what the things were to do to get there. Um, and that's just kind of why I stuck through the whole thing. And I still do things like that now. I set goals, and once I have that goal set, I'll back up. All right, what do I need to do to get there? Where are my micro goals? That's kind of what, just like training for a marathon or something. Like you're gonna run 26 miles on this date. How many miles do I need to run to get there? Right, same kind of process.
Um, so with that said, with the goals, I know I've had my fair share of surgeries. I've had both my hips replaced. I just had cervical disc replacement.
Yeah,
I've been kind of beat up. So one thing that I had to learn was that healing physically and mentally, really, but especially physically, when you
yeah,
deal with this much trauma, it is non-linear, meaning that like just because you walked 4 laps today does not mean five will come tomorrow. You know what I
right.
mean? So what did you experience with the physical healing? And like were there some ups and downs? Did you have days where it was like, dude, this is not going the way I want it to?
Yeah, for sure. Especially like early on when I started getting into the running, there were definitely days where like I pushed myself too hard, and it was like, fuck, like my leg's on fire now, and then my therapist is gonna bitch me out. So I definitely had days like that where it's like, like, oh, I got up to 3 miles today, like this is awesome. Like, um, you know, it's Tuesday, so like on Thursday, I'm gonna shoot for, another mile or two. And it's like, well, damn, I didn't even get the 5. You know what I mean? Because I'm sore and I never did it. But um, I had a conversation with Jason Redman one time, and he said something that I've heard a million times, but it just never really resonated. And it was like he's like, "Look, dude, it's always going to be 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And once you realize that, things are going to get a lot easier for you." And he was right. And that's kind of the way I looked at it. I was like, "All right, well, I got progress today, so just know that there's going to be a step back here at some point. And when that happens, it's okay, man. Just keep pressing forward, doing your thing, and you'll get that step back. It's just going to take time, you know? So, and I look at that and I always tell people like life in general, like things might be going great for you in every aspect, but don't worry about it. But just know that at some point, you're going to have a hiccup or a speed bump somewhere, and it's okay. It's just part of life. That's just part of life, man. And what you do to get over it is what matters, you know? So,
Yeah, that's something I talk to my kids about. I'm like, what you have to remember is that like when you look back at the highs and lows of your life, like none
yeah,
of them were as good as you ever think in the moment. None of them were really as bad either. Like it's
right.
really, and then like you have to expect the struggles and expect the fights, and otherwise
Yeah,
the good times don't matter. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
without, and that's really kind of what you said about like how you've changed the way you look at a lot of things. Like you would not have the perspective without the struggle and the facing death head on
yeah,
in a super traumatic way. Like without that, like you would not have the outlook that you have today. You know?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm super thankful for everything, man. Like, I'm just blessed that I woke up in the hospital with that kind of mindset, like, kind of right away. Just I woke up thankful, you know, and that kind of just. I always started by, man, like the biggest thing for me, it was accept it right off the bat. Accept it. Accept what it is. Figure out what you can work on, and then work on it. But you're not getting anywhere if you're not going to accept what your situation is. You got to accept it if you want to change it, you know.
That's a hard thing to do. Like, how did you just make that shift so quickly? Like, was it something that you've always worked on?
I wouldn't say it's something I always worked on, but I don't know, man. It's crazy, man. Like I just woke up thankful and I wanted to get home to my family. I wanted my life back, and something told me that, hey man, you can't fight what happened. Like it happened. You can't go back in time and not get shot or, not, have your legs shattered in a million pieces. Like you just have to get forward and make the best of it to get back to your family. Um, and I just did it. I mean, I had ups and downs along the way, just like we just said, step forward, step back. But you just had to fight through it and look at the end goal. Like, what's your end goal? My end goal is to get my life back to my family. That was the ultimate goal. I wanted to be as normal as I was before. Whatever your take on normal is, right? I wanted to be my normal. Um, so, I mean, I definitely had my ups and downs where I had days where it was like, why me for sure, but I don't. I mean, that comes down to having bad days. But I look at bad days as you don't have to have bad days, man. Like you're going to have bad moments, but as long as you can figure out a way to crush those bad moments, you can avoid those bad days. You know what I mean? It's getting ahead of those bad moments and figuring out how to avoid those and get through them before it turns into a bad day, a bad week, a bad year, whatever it may be. But I just kind of woke up thankful, man. I woke up thankful and I just wanted to get moving forward and get home.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like Jordan Peterson talks about some of this stuff, and he's got a chapter in one of his books called like being grateful in spite of
Yeah,
your suffering, right? So like this is like epitomizing that. I think he
yeah,
uses Job a lot of times in that context, and also like giving giving meaning to your suffering is
yeah,
huge. Like you have to have that, like I'm going through this for a reason, and whatever that is for you, it is for you. Like you can basically frame that however you want, but
yeah,
it does have a meaning, and suffering will always have a use.
yeah,
The shitty thing is like you might not learn it for like 3, 5, 10 years,
yeah,
Then you look
yeah,
back at it and you're like, I get it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like God wasn't going to give me anything more than I could handle. You know, like it's bad, but I don't think He would have gave it to me if He didn't think I could handle it. It's kind of how I look at it. Like, well, if God gave me this, He knows I can handle it. Because God doesn't want me to die. You know what I mean? He wants me. He'll take me when He wants me. But it wasn't my time, so I need to get through this and do the best I can and learn something from it. And whatever I learned, hopefully I can pass it on going forward with in some way, shape, or form. And that's why I got into to public speaking and doing conferences and corporate events or wherever it may be, and opening myself up on social media, writing a book. Um, that was kind of my whole goal behind that was just kind of help someone somewhere along the way if I could.
Yeah, so let's talk about that a little bit, like transition into what you're doing more specifically.
Yeah,
I know I saw that you wrote a book. I haven't even like scratched the surface of other than that yet, though.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, early on in my recovery, I started journaling when I was in the rehab center, like voice notes because I couldn't write. So I kept voice notes in my phone, and I kept doing that for a long time, and ended up being like, oh man, like I think this could be a book. I just got to fill in the pieces, fill in the gaps and whatnot. So I ended up doing that, piecing it together. Got a publisher, got it printed. In the meantime, while I was out in recovery for those nearly 2 years, I was doing a lot of like public speaking locally, like academies and stuff. Just donating my time, talking to recruits and whatnot. And I was like, maybe this will be my thing. Maybe I'll get into public speaking and I'll formulate a course, wherever it may be, keynote. So I started doing that, started formulating things, and then last year, in 24, I started doing a lot more conferences. Start trying to get in law enforcement, first responder conferences, things like that. I'm still doing that, trying to get into. I'm starting to work my way a little bit into like some corporate stuff, like leadership, self leadership, adversity, discipline, things like that. But it's something I really enjoy, man. It's crazy because something I never wanted to do. Like even like at work, like I was always hounded to go be like a certified instructor in this or an instructor in that, and I was like, I don't want to instruct anything. I don't like public speaking. I don't like teaching. I just want to do my job. You know what I mean? So that was something I always avoided. And all of a sudden, it was like, boom, let's go stand up on stage in front of hundreds of people and spill your guts. You know what I mean? Um, it wasn't easy. I had to, but that's one of the things I always preach is like, in order to change, in order to improve, to get better, and whatever it is you got to do, you got to get outside that comfort zone. You got to push yourself to do things that you don't like to do, you've never done, things that you never thought of trying. Um, so I forced myself to do that, and public speaking was something that was really, really hard for me starting out, and even now, like sometimes it's still like you get nervous getting on stage and stuff, but I really enjoy it, man. I enjoy getting up there and talking to people and seeing the look on some of the guys and girls' faces when I'm telling my story, and especially afterwards, like when I come off stage and I get to talk to people face to face and hear their stories. Because sometimes I hear someone else's story and I'm like, oh man, that's a really good take. That's a really good lesson. And I'll take something away from it. So to me, it's about teamwork. It's about giving back, helping others realize that you know your worst day doesn't have to be the worst day. You can work yourself through it and improve and get better. I just try to keep that message going. Same thing with the book. That was the reason I read the book. I just wanted to share my experiences. I mean, you look around like as a cop, you always see like military guys that coming out and writing books and hitting podcasts and talking about their stories and their struggles and this and that. And I'm like, where are all the cops doing this? Like they're out there, but there's few and far between. You know what I mean? And that kind of bothered me. Like, I'm looking up when I was in recovery, like I'm always like, looking up podcasts. I'm looking up, Jocko or Sean Ryan or whatever it may be, like looking at these guys and how they got through things. So I'm like, where's all the cop stories? That kind of bothered me. So I was like, I'm not going to be like that. I want to get out. I want to share my story as hard as it may be. And maybe somewhere along the way, there's one person out there that will take something from it. That was kind of my mission.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way to transition, especially when we talk about like roles and the identity that we have as cops, especially like SWAT guys and that kind of stuff, where it's like at some point it's just like being an athlete. Like
Yeah.
your shelf life is gonna expire. And you're gonna have to retire either an injury or like you just get old, man. Like I can feel it
Yeah.
now, being 15 years on a SWAT team. It's like I ain't
Yeah.
the same as I was in year two. I can tell you that.
Right.
So at
Exactly.
some point, how do I transition into some other role and still provide value to the job, to the dudes,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So this
Yeah.
is a perfect way to do it.
Yeah. And looking back, if I could go back and change one thing, it would be that. It was, earlier in my career, as I got towards the latter end, like I would have had something in mind that I wanted to do post law enforcement, I never did. Because I didn't think about it. I was like, oh, I'm a cop. This is what I do. I'm not thinking about retirement. I love it. Da, 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 da. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're not a cop anymore. Well, now what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't have interest in
Right.
anything else. You know what I mean? So if I could go back and do one thing, it would just be that, find interest in other areas
Hmm.
because regardless of why you leave, whether it's injury related, mandatory retirement, whatever, you're getting out of it and you're going to have to find something to do, right? So find other interests, that would be my suggestion to guys out there now on the job is find something else you like. It's not a plan B, it's the next step, right? It's the
Yeah.
next party.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the statistics on officers' death after retirement, it's like 5 years on average.
Yeah,
You're dead,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
horrible, right?
yeah,
And if you have another mission to move into, like
yeah,
that lifespan is going to improve, you know.
right. Yeah, for sure.
So like that's just a fact. Like we know that to be a fact. So I really think that that should become part of like in like onboarding in the academies should have something like, hey, here are some things that you can gain skill sets in, and then when you
Right,
retire, you can transition into the private sector to do this, this, and this, you know,
right. Yeah,
rather than just kind of try to navigate it ourselves, and then all of a sudden we don't do it because we get real
yeah,
busy, cool shit, and then we're just off on our own.
right.
And actually, Sean Ryan said this maybe a month ago or so on his podcast. I heard him say it, and it really stuck with me about like PTSD and dealing with shit and like, how you can do it when you're on the bus, but once you get off that bus, it's
Yeah,
like, how do I do this? How do I deal
yeah,
with this? And it's like
yeah,
you're just by yourself.
yeah. Yeah, it's tough, man. Transition, it's not easy, man. It's been really tough for me. Like, just figuring out, you know, is this what I'm going to do all the time? And if so, like, I need to learn more about it and, figuring out how to learn more about not just public speaking in general and becoming a better speaker, but, the business side of it, finding places to speak, negotiating your contracts, the number of things that come with it. It's learning it by myself. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
you know, trial by fire, man. It's you go out there and you make your mistakes like anything else you do in life, and you learn from it, you improve on it, you move on and make it better next time. And I enjoy doing that. It's frustrating like anything else because it's like any other job, but um, I love it, man. I really love it. I'll do it as long as I can, as long as it's riding for my family. I'm happy, So
Awesome.
yeah,
Um, well, cool, man. Well, I don't want to keep you all day. We've been going for about an hour.
yeah.
So, uh, any closing thoughts and where can people find more about you and your book and your speaking and whatever you're doing?
Yeah, so you can find me on socials at the TJ Webb, a website. You can find the book. It's called Just One More. It's thetjwebb.com. And I would just say to everybody, if you're a cop, number one, find something that interests you, that you can get into as a second career because it's going to happen at some point. Be prepared. And everyone else, including cops, like just keep moving forward, man. Life's short as it is. Don't make it shorter and make it harder on yourself for no reason. Push yourself every day. Do the best you can. Provide for your family, and just believe in yourself, man. Just believe in yourself.
Awesome. Well, cool,
Yeah,
man. Well, I will let you go and
you should.
yeah, stay in touch for sure. If you ever want to do this again or if I can ever do anything for you, like hit me up, let me know.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. I might be coming out to Indiana. I don't know where you are, but I might be trying to get out there sometime this summer. Um, I'll message you the location. I can't
Yeah.
remember, but yeah. So where are
Yeah.
you at out there, actually?
Fort Wayne. So
Okay.
northeast.
Okay. I think I'm going southeast, I
Yeah.
think, closer to like Louisville.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some prettier parts of the state down further south.
Is there? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. Yeah, cool, man. Yeah, man. I appreciate you having me on, man. I appreciate you reaching out and give me a chance to share my story a little bit.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
All right. Later, man.
Thanks.